Good morning, class. It's Miss Payne, and today we're going to continue on in our number system unit with Lesson 4, Day 2. So on today's agenda, we first have a bell ringer. We're then going to do some notes. We are going to do a graphing packet, either individually or in a group. And we're going to go over your homework that's in the graphing packet, and then we're going to do an exit slip to wrap up the class. So let's go. Okay, so to start off today, we're going to first go over our standards, objectives, and essential questions. So the standard of the day is 6.ns.6, and it's to understand a rational number as a point on a number line, extend knowledge of number line diagrams to represent points on a line and in a plane with positive and negative coordinates. Our objective is that you all will be able to recognize positive and negative numbers as coordinates on a coordinate plane after completing a graphing packet and homework assignment. Our first essential question is, how is absolute value seen in real-life problems? Number 2 is, how can knowing how to graph rational numbers help you in math? And number 3 is, what is the difference between a positive and negative integer? By the end of this lesson, and really by the end of the entire unit, you will be able to answer all of these questions. You'll be able to look back on the objectives and know if you mastered the standard or not. So let's get started. Alright, so we're going to move on to our bell ringer to open up class. Make sure you put your name on your bell ringer so that I know whose it is. You're going to write everything on this sheet of paper, show your work, explain your answer as much as possible, and then you're going to turn it in. It's worth 5 points. So the question is, what is the difference between negative 315 and negative 86? So you're finding the difference between the two. So you're going to find the distance between the numbers, explain absolute value, explain the difference between the two numbers in your own way, any way you want to answer it. Just make sure you show all your work to receive any credit, okay? Now that you all have completed the bell ringer, we're going to move on to notes. So get out your note sheets. Alright, this is what your note sheets should look like. It says rational numbers and graphing notes. I handed these out at the beginning of the lesson. So you have just a section to write down things you know from each section of the notes. So I basically broke the notes up, and I gave you an extra sheet so you can write any diagrams, anything you need to. You're going to put some questions you have at the end of the unit, so that whenever we go around the room and talk about what we learned, you can ask your questions, we can get everything answered. And I broke everything down into different sections, so make sure you're keeping track of everything, and that way when you're doing your graphing packet later, or you're doing your homework, or you have an exam to study for, you have something to look back on. This is not worth a grade, so you're just going to fill it out for you to help you understand what we're talking about, okay? So, along with your note sheet, you also need to get out your vocab sheet that I also passed out. So it looks like this. It's got 8 vocab words, and it's got the title of rational numbers and number lines. So in this lesson, we're going to go over integers, negative, positive, opposite, quantities, absolute value, zero, number line. So from day 1 of this lesson, which was yesterday, you should have already filled in some of the bubbles with the definitions of each word. We're going to go over some more today, so keep track while we go through the presentation. This, again, is not worth a grade, but you are going to be able to use this to study for your exam. You're going to be able to use it on your homework, your in-class work, anything you need to use it on, you may use it. It's just for your reference. Alright, now that we have gone over our bell ringer, our notes, and our vocab sheets, we're going to move on to our notes. So from yesterday, you should remember that positive and negative numbers are represented on number lines, and we also discussed how number lines are represented. This can be a version of a number line, and this can be a version of a number line. So today, we're going to go over what coordinate planes are. Coordinate planes are basically where you put 2 number lines together, and they create a giant grid like this, and this is how we create graphs. So we're also going to talk about a coordinate, which is a point on the graph, which is usually those little dots you see all over the graphs. But we're going to go over that in the next slide. Alright, so we're first going to go over coordinate points, and they come from x, comma, y. So that is the form that you will always see a coordinate in, is x, comma, y. Alright? The x-axis is the horizontal number line, so it goes side to side. Okay? And the y-axis is the vertical number line, so it goes up and down. Coordinates are always plotted by when x and a y cross. So remember in the last slide, right here, we saw that this is the y-axis, it's the vertical axis, and this is the x-axis. So a point on the graph, or a coordinate xy, is when you find the number on the x, the number on the y, and find where they match up. Alright? So, now we're going to go on to example 1. We're going to name the coordinates on these graphs. So, we're going to start with the first one. The first one is right here, it's letter A. So we have our x-axis here, our y-axis here. So the coordinate of this one, you're going to find where x is first, because remember, when you're finding the coordinate, it's always in the form x comma y. So we look for the x coordinate first. Your x is always on the horizontal axis. So our x in this case is 3, because if you look where A is, and you look where the x-axis is, it lines up with the 3. Your y is going to be -2, because it's on the y-axis, and that's where it matches up. So all across here is -2, all up and down is 3. So in this case, it would be 3, -2. For B, it's back here. We look for our x, it's -8. If we look for our y, it is 5. So it's -8, 5. For C, it is the x is -3, the y is -6. So it is -3, -6. For D, this one is going to be a little different. So because D is on a 0, there's no x number where D is on. So we're going to do 0, comma, and then we're going to look where it is on the y-axis, and that is 5. So 0, 5. And then E, we see that here it is in between two numbers, so it's not an exact whole number. So we can look right here, and -3 is here, and -4 is here. So it's -3.5, 0, because it is on the 0 for the y-axis. It's not up or down. Alright? So just to go over what we just talked about, we're going to always remember that coordinates are always named with x, y. If you remember anything from today, remember that coordinates are named with x, y. Alright? Write that down on your note sheets. Also your vocab sheets, coordinates. Coordinates are the points on the graph. The points on a graph where x and y line up. They can create any 2D shapes. If you have, you all may have done the coloring sheets, where you connect the dots and color them in. That's an example of this. They can create lines, they can create shapes, anything that you can find on a graph. Alright. We're going to now watch a video, a really short video.
Another Method Man Productions episode. Today's lesson will be about the coordinate plane and how to plot points. Pretty easy lesson. Before I start, let's go over some key vocabulary. Let's start with the coordinate plane. Coordinate plane is just the whole graph itself. There's an x and y axis, which we'll go over in a bit. Coordinates are just the fancy word for the points. So I put a coordinate here, a flower. That's a coordinate. They also call it ordered pair, whichever one your teacher prefers. Coordinates or ordered pair, they mean the same thing. Origin is the very center of the graph. So think about it like a crosshair, a target. The very middle, where the coordinates of 0, 0 is just the origin. Easy way to remember 0, 0 starts with an O for origin. I don't know, maybe it'll help you that way. And the coordinate plane is made up of an x-axis, which I highlighted in green right here. If you observe, everything on the right side of the x-axis is positive, and just remember that everything to the left of it is negative. Just take a look at that. That's the x-axis. It goes horizontal, so from left to right. Y-axis, up and down, vertical. All the numbers above the origin on the y-axis is positive. Everything below the origin is negative. If you want, please pause the video and maybe study the vocabulary words. These are very important. And take a look at the graph so you know what's what.
Alright, now that we have watched the video, it gave you a little bit better of a visual of what everything's going to look like on a coordinate grid. We're going to start with a packet. So for page 1 of the packet, you're going to find that I have a 4 coordinate ordered pairs worksheet. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through the worksheet. You're going to find which point matches each spot on the coordinate plane. So for example, you have -1, -6. So if you find -1 on the x, -6 on the y, you come with A. So the first one is A. This worksheet is pretty much the same thing, just ordered differently. So for the first one, you're looking for letters. For the second section, you're going to actually write out the coordinate points in the XY form. And then you're going to plot the following on the grid yourself. So this is page 1. It's not very hard. You can work in groups. You can do it individually. You may use your vocabulary sheets, your reference sheets. Anything you need to do, you can ask me for help if you don't understand. Just complete it to the best of your ability. So the second page of your packet, make sure you put your name on all sheets. If you want to staple them together, you can. Is a second worksheet is a single quadrant ordered pairs. So it's basically the same thing as the last worksheet. It's just the first quadrant instead of all 4 quadrants. So you only have an X and you only have a Y, and they're all positive. You don't have to worry about those negative numbers. So in a way, it's a little bit easier. So for the first section, you're gonna find again the letter. You're gonna find the letter that matches up with the XY form. If you want to write XY at the top of your paper, remember, do that. Use your note sheets again and your vocab sheets. Your second one, you're doing the same thing as last worksheet. You're just going to write out the coordinate points that you find for each letter. They're not all going to be the same, and none of them should have the same coordinate. Okay, you don't see 2 points overlapping on this, so there should not be 2 of the same coordinates. And then you yourself are going to use this. You're going to find where 3, 3 is on the XY plane, and you're going to plot point H there. Remember to put your name on it, and you're going to turn this in at the end, alright? Alright, so now we're going to go over the homework. This is also stapled into the packet that you've worked on today in class. You just have a big XY plane with a bunch of vegetables and fruit all over it. So you're just going to find where the coordinates of each fruit or vegetable are. So we're going to do the first one together, make it a little easier to understand. So the first one you see here is a pineapple. You're going to find the pineapple. It's right here. You're going to find X is 5 and Y is 2. So you're going to write that in the correct form, X, Y, and that is 5, 2. So that's the answer to the first one. This is to be done individually, and you're going to turn it in for a separate grade from the packet that you did in class as a group or in partners, whatever you did. So this is your own grade. You're supposed to work on it independently, but if you have any questions, you may ask for help, okay? Alright, so now that we've gone over the packet, you're going to have some time in class to finish it. You can work on it independently with a partner or in a small group. You are to only do the first 2 worksheets as a group or as partners. Your last worksheet with the fruit and vegetables all over it is supposed to be homework, so do not work on that with anyone. That is for me to grade you on how well you understand everything. It's not a big grade. It's only worth 20 points. And you're going to get participation points for the ones we did in class as well as our notes that we did today. So all you're doing now is you're going to be doing your packets in class, and you're going to be asking questions. So before I dismiss you, I just want to ask if there's any questions about what we learned today. I also want to make sure that you all fully understand that the vocabs and note sheets are not worth a grade. They're for you to keep. At the end of the next lesson, we're actually going to have a end of unit summary test where we basically have a big assessment over everything we've done this unit. So I want you to keep everything you've learned today, everything you've written down. Ask any questions as you leave. There's not an exit slip today because I wanted to focus more on your homework, getting you started on your homework. So if you do have any questions, you can ask me as you leave. Otherwise, just complete the graphing packet for homework, and you guys are dismissed. I hope you have a great day, and be ready for lesson 5 when you come in tomorrow. Bye.